What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? You are now watching Boyz Sports Show. I'm your host, Kyng Ralph, here with my homie and my co-host for the day, my man Tar. What's good, Brody?
Man, what's good, bro? Got any plans for Christmas?
My mom just landed in town.
Oh, word.
Yeah, my mom just landed in town last night, so kicking it with her. Ironically, I got scheduled for our opening shifts all week, which is cool. So I get to spend my nights with her. My daughter is gonna stay an extra night, so she'll be here tomorrow. We're gonna go. Tomorrow's my mom's birthday as well, so we're gonna go to dinner. How about you? What you got going?
Man, just chilling. Probably go to homie's house on Christmas Eve. Watch some football for sure. Trying to figure out these time schedules because it's all kind of spread out and weird.
Right,
So yeah,
right.
just
Man, I ain't gonna cap. I'm tomorrow morning. I'm probably gonna do a video on social media where I talk trash about every reason why I lost. But I lost, and I got to the playoffs in both of the leagues I'm in, and then lost in the first round.
Oh, bro, I'm still alive. I'm in the championship in one, and I'm 10-4 in the other two. So I have bye weeks. So
yeah, the one that I won the championship, it was super close. Everybody that was in the playoffs was 7-6 or 8-5.
Yeah. I had a league like that. The league I'm in the championship game, I was 7-7. All my quarterbacks lost. I would never thought that I would have to rely on Jake Browning in week
I'm gonna have to
whatever to pull through. But I was playing the number one team, and I was the number 4. I was like 7-7. I just squeaked in the playoffs. I beat the brakes off him. I scored 204 points. It was like 204 to like 100 something. I beat the brakes off him. Like Jake Browning, never in my life, bro. Like that never in my life, bro. Every quarterback I had got hurt. I was like, damn, bro.
I felt that. And the show has been brought to you by Fitboxer. If you want to do any podcasts like what you're watching, music videos, photo shoots, call the number on the bottom of the screen, 707 Fitboxer. Make sure you go and you follow all of our socials. They'll be down there on the bottom of the ticker. My personals is at KYNGRALPH. You can find me on everything at an underscore for Twitter. And then make sure you go and subscribe on J.U.k Media on YouTube. Like the Facebook page, the He Say She Say channel, as well as following us on Instagram at J.U.K Sports Show. And we got a lot to get into today. So Cam Newton made some headlines about a week ago. With his 4th and 1 podcast, he made a statement about game management or game managing quarterbacks versus game changers. And he named Brock Purdy, Dak, Tua, and Jared Goff to prove his point. Was Cam out of bounds?
I don't think he was, because I feel like there's a lot of validity to what he said. And here's a misconception, too, about the term game manager. People look at the term game manager as like a cuss word in football, right? That's like insult. And all a game manager to me truly is a very smart quarterback that can win us some games and can get us in and out of good and bad plays. And that minimizes the mistakes. You got the gunslinger like Brett Favre that'll throw a billion interceptions. And then you got the guy that'll come in and calmly understand, like, okay, I should throw the ball here. I should throw the ball here. I can read the defense, throw the ball here. And by definition, right, you look at certain players, the guys that he named, right? The one downfall that you could sit there and say about a game manager is they're more relied upon talent than any other, part of a quarterback. And the example is Brock Purdy, right? The example is Dak, right? The reason why Brock Purdy is the example of what a game manager is, because we pointed out the last episode that I was on, right, that they went on a 3-game losing streak, didn't have Trent Williams, they didn't have Debo, and Christian McCaffrey wasn't, of top shape, and he struggled, right? He didn't look like the same quarterback. He didn't put the team on his back, so to speak, and win, the ball game in any way. He needs a perfect game script in order for him to play perfect. He needs everything around him in order to be perfect. It's not an insult. It's the truth, right? You look at a guy like Dak Prescott, right? In his career, he was blessed to have 1,000-yard receivers on both sides, right? He had Amari Cooper one year, CeeDee Lamb. This year he has Brandon Cooks, he has CeeDee Lamb. He's always had a 1,000-yard back behind him, whether it's Tony Pollard or Zeke. Always had a great offensive line in front of him. Always was supported by a great defense, right? The problem with Dak is when it comes to December and January football, he doesn't elevate his team in any way, right? Now, I'm not gonna like be Cam Newton's spokesman, but in terms of what he meant by changing the game, like I look at Cam Newton's rookie year, right? You look at Cam Newton and the things that he had around him when he won his MVP and took that team to a 15-1 Super Bowl year. In his career, first and foremost, he's only thrown to 2,000-yard receivers. I'm not talking tight end because Greg Olsen damn near got 1,000 yards every year. I'm talking about wide receivers. Steve Smith his rookie year and Calvin Benjamin 1 year, right? The year he had Calvin Benjamin, he had 1,000. The next year when he took him to the Super Bowl, he didn't have Calvin Benjamin towards ACL. You're looking at your number one receiver, right, being Ted Ginn Jr. with 44 catches and like 656 yards and the most dropped passes in the league. Right. Jericho Cottrey, Philly Brown, and then I mentioned the aforementioned Greg Olsen, the tight end, had 77 catches, 1,000 yards, right?
Right.
So in order for that team to be 15-1, in order for for him to be an MVP, he had to elevate his play to that level. He had 35 touchdowns, second leading rusher on the team with 656 rushing yards, led the team in rushing touchdowns with 45 touchdowns. Right. That's production from a quarterback where he's needed to play. If you were to put a Dak Prescott, if you were to put a Brock Purdy on that Carolina Panthers team, they're not a 15-win team. They're like a 3-win, a 4-win, a 3-win team, right? So that's what I believe was the difference, right? Like even if you put like Brock Purdy with Lamar Jackson's team, not this year's Lamar Jackson team, but the Lamar Jackson team the last couple of years, it's not the same thing, right? So right. I feel like that's what he meant by a game changer and that, right? It's two different things, and it's just the negative connotation that the term that it has, but I believe that's what he meant by that. So,
and I 100% agree, man. I think that he was in bounds. I think that you can agree with a take and disagree with a take without attacking a person individually, and that's the part for me where I felt like people need to get out their feelings, and I felt like there were personal attacks, as if it kind of makes it seem where it's like, all right, I can tell you just don't like this person. And there were some people that made some attacks and they started talking about him as like a person and not the football player that I just didn't expect to see it come from. And at the same time, there was just some takes, as bad as his take was to some people, saying that Dak was a better quarterback is like, that's complete cap. Being able to be like, oh, well, he's jealous and he's not in the league right now, and that's why he's making these statements. It's like, do you even watch his podcast?
Not to even cut you off.
Breakdowns and analysis for the X's and O's on why he feels the way that he feels.
Tom Brady said the same thing like 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
And he's the GOAT.
Right.
So he said the same thing. So
yeah, I just don't understand when people be coming out, getting all in their feelings, making these statements about players, and you can tell it's coming from a person. You're making it personal, where your job has always been to report what you see on the field or in the locker room. And I feel like too often it becomes a personal attack on someone's character, and that's the part for me where I'll pull myself out the situation.
Yeah, I agree.
And so the Clippers right now, last night, they destroyed the Pacers. James was cooking. They're on an 8-game winning streak. Is this team now a legit threat?
You know what? They're starting to figure each other out, which is you figured it would. But for me, like, I'm always been the champion of I don't believe regular season games matter that much.
Right.
And I want to see this team how they would look in a 7-game series, because I still think that I don't know if they're going to make a move during the trade deadline, but I do think that they're very light when it comes to, the front court play. And in a 7-game series, it's kind of hard for me to like envision them doing anything with the Nuggets because you have a big Jokic out there. It's hard for me to imagine them like doing anything with like the Timberwolves because, you have Cat. even though Cat's not not really the greatest defender in the world, neither really is Rudy Gobert, right? But the simple fact that you have the height, the fact that you're able to rebound, the fact that you're able to put them in foul trouble because you have bigger bodies, that's what I'm concerned about in the 7-game series when it comes to them. Is they can score points for days. That's never going to be a problem. They have the production, they can score, but can you stop somebody when it matters? And that much I don't know about them as of yet, right? Especially in a 7-game series. A regular season, you can do your thing in a regular season, but the point isn't winning regular season games. That's been the story of James Harden's career, is what you do in the postseason. And
that part. Yeah, for me, I think that they can be based on the matchup, but all of the best teams have good bigs, and that's the part for me where it starts to be, and that's the part I think I'm end up agreeing with you, is in the playoffs when you run up against an AD, a Jokic, a Cat, and Rudy, even to a certain degree, like a Jaren Jackson and Xavier Tillman, like when you got those bigs on the back end protecting the rim, they're not going to be able to match that physicality. And right now, it just depends, man. I think that if they can get it clicking offensively, from what I've seen, and I think that they've done exactly what a lot of people who watch basketball have said that they should do. Not a whole lot of patting the ball movement, getting the ball in your spots. The pick and roll with Zubac and James, as well as Tice and James. Pocket passes, the flares and rotation with Kawhi on the backside, getting to his spot in the pick and roll. And it's like using Kawhi in that double pick and roll to where once you switch, Kawhi's getting a smaller defender and he's just backing him down, getting to his spot mid range god. And I've even seen Paul George get to a point where he's getting more into his 2 dribbles get the bucket, or 2 dribbles come up off it. And that's where I think that's where they should be.
Right.
Where you have enough offensive weapons where you should be able to get a bucket or make a play within 2 dribbles. And it's like, that's where James, his evolution he needs to get to a point where he's just not out there just patting it, doing this thing, dribble, tween, step back.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that they could have a potent offense while also they need to pay attention to those details on the defense.
Yeah, and not only that, like they have a very good second unit, like as well. Like you have Norman Powell off the bench. I mean, I don't know if Terrence Mann starts or not, but you have Terrence Mann.
He starts because
Russell Westbrook. Yeah, you got Westbrook, right? So I think it's like you have that dynamic that I'm very okay with, and I think that they have a good scoring dynamic and in off the bench, and and the number one thing that's been really pressing for the team is health, right? They always stumble into the playoffs with an injury. Now that you don't have to kind of bust your ass, in the regular season because you got guys like Norman Powell and the rest that are healthy, right? So that's a good thing, right? So I think that they might be 100% for the first time in like ages going into the playoffs. So that's what I like. But like I said, a lot is to be desired about that front line. And I feel like during the trade deadline, you might get some buyouts and stuff like that. And teams, a player might want to come to them feeling like they have a chance to win. You know how the league plays out. So I think they could at a center, later on,
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I can definitely agree with you, man. You never know what happens with buyouts, the trade deadline, pieces that they can move. I do think that some of the physicality that they needed, they traded away to get James.
Yeah.
And that's the part where I think that if they can replace some of that physicality, it'll help them in the long run. We talked about Brock Purdy. Dak and him has CD. Brock got a plethora of weapons. Tua got Tyreek. should more position players be in the MVP conversation?
Absolutely. And here's the thing: like, I actually looked something up because I was like, I just wanted to know for myself, and I'm kind of like, I just have this idea that the NFL should just change the name of the MVP award to the best quarterback in the division award, right?
Right.
And
Right.
and I'm gonna use the example of 2021 just as a base of my argument. But real quick, like there was three things that I looked up that kind of alarmed me. So number one, the last time a skill position player um, won an MVP award was 2012, Adrian Peterson. A wide receiver has never won it, and the last time a defensive player won it was 1986, Lawrence Taylor. So
Right.
last time we were on your show, I asked about 2021 with Jonathan Taylor, and I was curious to know because like Jonathan Taylor in my mind should have always won the MVP award in 2021, but actually looking up the 2021 season, he actually there was two iconic seasons that should have gotten it. They didn't get it. Like number one, TJ Watt had 22 and a half sacks in 2021, which is a league record, like
Right.
for a season of sacks. He got defensive player of the year, but why not get the MVP? That's iconic, right? Then you look at Cooper Kupp's season, right? Cooper Kupp won a triple crown, and you look up the season, he had 145 catches, which the NFL league record was 149 by Michael Thomas. So he was second all time. Then you had he was 1,000. He had 1,945, which the NFL record is Megatron 1,965. So he's like 20 yards off.
Right.
16 touchdowns. The league record is 4, like 420. So he needed 4 more. So not only did he do that, right? He won the NFL. He won the Super Bowl, and he was the MVP of the Super Bowl, right? So in my Tyrese was, what more do you have to do, right? Like, what more do you want from me, right?
Right.
When you look up like who won it that year, it was Aaron Rodgers, right? You look up Aaron Rodgers' stats that year, he was actually the 5th best quarterback that year, the 5th, right? He had 4,100 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Tom Brady led the league in yards with 5,000 yards, led the league in touchdowns with 43, and then only reason why he didn't win it is because he had interceptions. So it's like 4,100 yards is like mid-year for Aaron Rodgers. Like he didn't have more passing yards than Derek Carr had. 37 touchdowns are decent for him, but it's okay. And he had 4 interceptions. So it's like you're nitpicking, trying to find ways to give it to a quarterback, even when they don't deserve it. The only reason why he got it was because his team was 13-3, but Tom Brady's team was 12-4, and he had less interceptions because Tom Brady had 13 interceptions, and then he led the league in completion percentage. That was literally the only reason why he got it. But his year wasn't iconic. TJ Watt's year was iconic, and Cooper would have been the first wide receiver in history to win an MVP, and he would have won the Super Bowl MVP. That would have been the most iconic year for a wide receiver, and you robbed him of that opportunity to give Aaron Rodgers mid-ass year an MVP. I don't see what more you got to do.
Right. That's 100%, man. I think that when it comes to this award, I really do hate how it becomes this quarterback-driven award, and I understand the importance of a quarterback, but to some degree, when a person is so talented, it doesn't matter who's throwing them the football; they're able to do numbers. And we've seen like Tyreek, if he was able to get, I know him missing this past game. I think the likelihood of it happening is just not very likely. But Cooper Kupp balled out when he had Jared Goff. It's just now he gets the triple crown when he gets a little bit of a better quarterback.
Bro, and one more thing. Imagine if he had 18 games. He would have obliterated those records.
Right. And then on top of that, like when we got Christian McCaffrey and what he's been able to do when he missed the games, how bad that offense looked. And then I think how well the Dolphins played all of those against the Jets team without Zach Wilson. But that defense is legit. The amount of points that they were able to put up without Tyreek doesn't really help Tyreek's case. But at the same time, I think that Christian McCaffrey, what he's been able to do, I've heard Lamar in the talks, people bringing him up, but I just don't. I've watched enough of their games where I don't think he's playing at an MVP level. He's just doing enough for them to win. And that's why I wouldn't put Lamar in that conversation. I really think it should be Christian McCaffrey's to lose.
Real quick, before yesterday, right? Jalen Hurts was 4th in MVP voting, and he's 2nd in turnovers. Now he's 1st in turnover, tied for 1st. So and then you look at the next best skill player, he's like 6th, Christian McCaffrey, and then Tyreek Hill is 7th because he missed. How?
Right.
So it's like you could lead the league in turnovers and still be 4th in Vegas odds to win an MVP. Makes no sense to me, right? Like it's crazy. And I want to look at the odds now that Dak struggled, right? Because Dak was 2nd, and he struggled this past weekend.
Yes, he played terribly.
And Christian McCaffrey is elevating, and so I want to know like how that now is equated because he struggled. So it's like y'all are just like cherry picking ways to give it to a quarterback even in struggle, right? Like Jalen Hurts is not the MVP. Like he hasn't. I didn't think he was MVP when he lost to the Jets. Like I was like, nah, bro, he's not MVP. Like, and I know we all have bad games, but I'm like, damn, bro. Like at that time he was up there with Jimmy Garoppolo for turnovers, and Jimmy Garoppolo ain't played for two or 3 weeks, and he was like up there with him. So I was like, yeah, nah, bro, there's no way. But yeah.
But then Coach Prime was on Nightcap with Shannon Sharp and Ocho. They asked him about the talks about him moving, going to the NFL, coaching the NFL. What would the dollar amount be? Must be the money reference. And Coach Prime said he does not have any interest in coaching in the NFL. Do you believe Coach Prime?
Yeah, no, I definitely believe him. I think that he likes teaching the younger generation, right? He's more of a father figure. Yeah. And I feel like you can do that more in college than you can do in the NFL because you're not really reaching. Like when Deion Sanders walks into a room and he'll command respect from the younger generation. The NFL players are going to look at Deion and not really give a damn, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, you can't do that Coach Prime shit in the NFL because it's like they're not, even though that you're great and you're a Hall of Famer, they're not, it's not going to move them the way it would move a college kid. They're going to listen to you more, right? And it's just one of those things of helping the youth be better versions of themselves. And Deion is one of those rare people, too, that understands that not every player is pro material. So the players that aren't pro material, you can impact their lives a lot more by helping them do other things in life, right? You look at some of the messages that he's done, like having Brittany Renner come talk to his team, like all these different things. It's for these young men to be better versions of themselves. Wear suit and ties and not fall asleep in class. Don't wear hoodies and slides to class. He's teaching them other things in life of how to be successful young men, not just pro football players or not just athletes, because he understands that not all of them are going to make pro football. It's just that's just the thing. Injuries happen. There's a bunch of things. So he's preparing them for that. You can't already do that to the NFL because they already got their contract and they feel like they're made already, right? So I definitely believe him.
I believe him 100%, man. I think that one of the things about Coach Prime is that he's very honest and transparent. And I feel like he always let it be known when he was at Jackson State that if a Power 5 came with the right opportunity, he'd have to have the conversation. I feel like when he's been here, he said day one, it's going to be a process. I need to get the trenches. And even when they played well, he still kept saying the same message. And then when they played bad, same message. He's been consistent. And that's where, I think, with everything that he's ever said, can't really go to too many times where he just straight up capped. And so for me, I'm going to take his word for it, and I believe him 100%.
Same.
And then there's 3 games left in the season, or 3 weeks left in the season. Steelers are 7-7 currently. Mike Tomlin has yet to have a losing season, given the record that they have. I know that this next game is the Bengals. There's a game after that, and then there's the Baltimore Ravens will this be his first losing season?
I think so. And here's the question that I have for personal reasons. Like, is this his last year as a Stiller? And what makes me ask that question is actually Ryan Clark kind of posed this because he said that he believes he lost the locker room, which is kind of hard for Mike Tomlin to do. But you kind of see the minimum effort on the field from George Pickens. You see the minimum effort on the field from Deontay Johnson, right? Like running half-ass routes, fumbling the football and not going to find the football, like just stuff that the Steelers don't do. You know, you got Najee Harris not intrigued at all. And I think that what
Seahawks is Seahawks on New
okay.
Year's Eve.
And they're a team like right now that just doesn't have any structure. They're a team right now that doesn't have like the respect. It just doesn't seem like they're just the old Steelers. And I think like really what it was is, if I'm gonna be perfectly honest, they kissed Ben Roethlisberger's ass for too long. If I'm just being honest, because when they were trying to bring in younger quarterbacks, he didn't want that. He felt disrespected, and the fact that it took them forever to just generate a quarterback. The Steelers' way is to not fire anybody, and I understand that. But sometimes you have to understand when enough's enough. Matt Canada wasn't a good offensive coordinator, and Ben Roethlisberger was old, so they should have been trying to like bring in a quarterback to kind of to do that. And now you're stuck with what you're stuck with, and then you wait in the worst year of the quarterback draft to get a quarterback that. I mean, in any other year, if he was to go last year, Kenny Pickett's like a 4th or 5th round pick, if we're just be perfectly honest, right?
Facts.
But the simple fact that you needed a quarterback and you drafted one out of necessity, right? You're stuck with what you're stuck with, right? And so unfortunately, it's like Mike Tomlin gets the blame for a lot of that, where he's been coaching his behind off, but you can't really coach effort. The players either have it or they don't, and they at this point they don't. And my question is, does he get fired? Because we're going to our next topic of the Raiders. That is probably the only coach that I would want over Antonio Pierce is Mike Tomlin. But
oh God, 100%.
But
100%. This one's a tough one, man, because I do personally feel like he's 17 seasons, 17, 18 seasons. That's insane to never have a losing season, but then to have it be your first one, and then now the talks of you going somewhere else is going to get louder. The way that you mentioned that Deontay Johnson, that situation was wild. Like he literally never left the line of scrimmage. Like he literally lined up, took a step, and just looked, and then walked off. Tried to walk off the field. Like that part is crazy to me. Like I've never seen a Steelers team play like that. And that's the part for me that makes it where getting to Mason Rudolph, the way that the Seahawks just played, and then it just depends on if the Ravens need that last game, how important that last game is. I must say, yes, this would be his first losing season, but also I do believe it's his last season with the Steelers. And so you brought it up, the Raiders. We've had conversations before. I don't think we've yet to have a conversation on the actual pod about it, or as far as in depth like we're going to be able to do today. But should the Raiders try to keep this coaching staff and this core of guys and try to build around this team?
Yes, I don't know if you got a chance to read the article with Tashawn Reed, where he interviewed Mark Davis, and he was kind of going over the qualifications he's looking for a head coach. But real quick, like Max Crosby has mentioned a few times that continuity is the most important thing that he's looking for, and he doesn't want to rebuild or he doesn't want to start over. And currently, the current GM is well respected around the building. He basically understands the roster. He wouldn't have to rebuild or start over, because most of the times when you bring in new people, they want to do their own thing, right? They're going to tear everything down and build the team in their image. And the Raiders can't afford that because they've done that too many times, right? So right now you have a guy who's well respected, as a general manager. If he was to lead the Raiders today, he'll find a job tomorrow. That's how respected and good he is. So I actually think that they keep him. Now, the slippery slope comes in where I bring up the article is that it kind of gets murky for Antonio Pierce in a way because Mark mentioned that he would like a guy with a little bit more experience. Um, and he mentioned that there's four types of head coaches. He said there's the offensive genius, which he labeled as the Andy Reids, the Kyle Shanahans, the Mike McDaniels, the defensive geniuses, right? Like the Mike Tomlins we just named. And there's a few other guys that made their D'Amico Ryans, the guy from the Jets, and
Robert
then
Saleh.
there's the special teams guy and John Harbaugh,
Yeah.
and then he said that there's the team motivator, what you get from Antonio Pierce and Dan Campbell.
Yes.
But he said like those type of guys need more help than anyone else because you're not really skilled position coaches. Like you're not an offensive coach. You're not really a defensive coach. So he would like, in his mind, he would like a coach that is a little bit more sharper on the offensive side of the ball or a little bit sharper on the defensive side of the ball, right? Because he believes like if Antonio Pierce stays on as coach, he believes that he has to hire a whole new like offensive staff or a whole new defensive staff in order for them to lead the own ends of the team. Like comparing it to the Lions, Ben Johnson runs that offense, and Aaron Glenn runs their defense, and that's it. And then they delegate everything to the coach. So this is why you're starting to see, like in the Raiders organization, Marvin Lewis in the press box. You're starting to see Tom Coughlin there because they serve as like an advisory role, and they're telling him and helping him out along the way. So in that way, like when I'm starting to kind of look at the coaching trees a little bit, I'm looking at the coaches with experiences. You're either looking at Jim Harbaugh, which no, I don't want Jim Harbaugh,
Right.
or you're looking at John Gruden coming back, which he's in the middle of a lawsuit with NFL, so that's like
right.
And then that's like, or a Mike Tomlin, if they can get a Mike Tomlin. But outside of that, all these coaches that are available don't have coaching experience. So it's like you might as well stay with what you kind of have because you're basically getting a first-time head coach, and we don't know how he's going to do in his first time. So the litmus test is going to come this weekend versus the Chiefs and the remaining two games to see how they do, especially the offensive side of the ball. I was impressed with what Bo Hardegree did this Sunday or this past Thursday against the Chargers. I thought he called a very, very strong and good game.
Yes.
However, I want Frank Smith, the guy from the Dolphins, the offensive coordinator. He spent time on Gruden's staff and he learned under Gruden, and that's who I think that they should kind of build the offense around, and they should keep the defensive staff because our defense is playing lights out. And
yeah, so, I was gonna ask you about some of the defense specifically.
Yeah, like I think that she could keep the defense around, but I think they should ultimately keep Antonio just because like the qualifications he's kind of looking for, the experience, you're not going to find that in the coaching thing. No. And he already won over the locker room. You already got what you're looking for. I just think he needs time with a better quarterback, a much better quarterback. And if Jaden Daniels is the quarterback, he coached him and already at Arizona State, and Jaden Daniels gave him a shout out at the Heisman. He already is respected, so you have that.
Yes.
And then secondly, you're not going to have to start over, and that's not what Max Crosby wants. So I think they should run it back what they currently have and get a senior advisor, like you said, somebody that can help them out and oversee football operations to help them out a little bit. Because if you're worried about a lack of experience from the general manager and coaching side, then you can hire somebody that they both trust. Like that's a middle ground for them, right? We've seen it on different teams before, but yeah.
Because I agree, man. I think that where they are right now, I think that they're not that far off from what their record says they are to where to have long-term success. I wanted to see Aiden O'Connell and what we had with that. Didn't really have the highest of expectations given that I think he was fourth round. And so I didn't really have the highest expectations, but he played about as well as I thought he would play. I do think that he's not the answer. So now at this point, you try to see what is the answer. And I think that when you got Josh Jacobs, you got Devontae, Mayer, Jacoby Myers. I don't know what they do with Renfro in this situation. It kind of hurts my soul the way that he's been treated over the last 2 years. But also the defense, the way that defense is playing is there's pieces there that I'm like I like. I like the Spillane pickup. I was really intrigued by the Jack Jones pickup, and then I seen that he played. He balled out this past
Interception,
week.
crazy.
Yeah, he balled out one of this past week over this past week, and he had one of the highest defensive grades according to Playoff Football Focus. And so, trying to see what we have on the other side of Crosby and trying to build up that line a little bit more. I would like to see us bring back Antonio, and then just like you said, get a senior advisor. Definitely keep the defensive coordinator, and then give the offensive coordinator to see what we got, because he called a great game against the Chargers. Um, and just to see what happens next, because you got the Chiefs, who have a top 5 defense right now, coming up, and then you got the Colts, who are playing football, competitive football right now, and I
Broncos.
believe we got the Broncos.
The Broncos.
So these last 3 games, I've seen enough to where I feel confident keeping AP, but now at this point, I want to see, can the offensive coordinator do enough to show that he deserves to be on the team next year. So in all, I would say keep the core. To go back to the question, keep the core and then just build around it. And so we got some pick'ems. This one has really big. They're both 2 teams that are in the wild card spots right now. I had the Saints, and I still possibly can win the division. But we got Saints Rams. Who you got?
I want the Saints to win it so bad because I'm such a Derek Carr guy, man, and I think that he gets so much unnecessary shit, and he's still getting so much unnecessary, right? And he's been playing hurt, but he's set a record. He's had 10 straight 3,000 yard seasons. Like that's and I think that it goes, if he wins, it goes a long way for number one, him winning a division, and number 2, for him playing in the playoffs. So I really want the Saints to win. However, I'm going with the Rams because how well the Rams have been playing. The Rams have been playing really, really well. And, they got weapons all over the place. The Saints have been really hurt. They've been struck by injury with wide receivers. They've been struck with injury with Carr. Some of their defensive guys have been, in and out of their rotation. And the Rams have just been playing really, really well. They have no business winning. I'm sorry, but they have been, so I'm rolling with the hot hand with the Rams.
This one's a tough one too, because I feel the same way about Carr, but they haven't been playing good football lately. So I'm gonna go with the Rams, who've been playing better football as of late. The Saints have a more talented team, but they're injured, often injured. So as much as I want to go with the Saints, I'm gonna go Rams for every reason that you brought up. And then we got Cowboys, Dolphins. I'm gonna go Dolphins. I think that they went up against a tough defense last week and put up 30. I think that this Cowboys team can be had if they're not getting scooping scores, pick sixes, creating turnovers to give Dak more possessions. I'm gonna take the Dolphins because I just think that they'll be able to do enough to get the victory.
Yeah, no, I agree. Definitely like the Dolphins. I want to see if Tyreek Hill plays because if he doesn't play, then I think that looms huge in the back. The Cowboys have a lot to prove that they can win on the road, and the Dolphins have a lot to prove that they can beat a team with a winning record. So I think both of those teams have a significant thing to prove, and I think that it'll be a close competitive game, but I do think the Dolphins will be able to squeak it out.
I agree, man. I definitely agree on that. And this one is the one I can't wait for. Ravens and 49ers.
Yeah, this is a possible Super Bowl preview. Nobody has been able – I think, man, the 49ers are just a very tough team to beat. Just the way that they play, the front line is just, oh, my God, like just how they've been playing. I think it's going to be – and now that it's the 49ers are at home, too, they play so well at home.
Yes.
that it's one of those things where I just don't see a team that can really match up with the 49ers. And the Ravens, they did lose the young kid Mitchell out of the backfield.
Yeah.
And you're a team that likes to run the football, and that takes a hit to something that they really like to do is run. And I definitely got the 49ers. I think this is going to be like a 2-touchdown game. But
Did the 49ers win by 2 touchdowns?
yeah, I think 49ers won by 2 touchdowns.
Wow. Yeah, I'm intrigued, man, because I want to see, because we've talked about how good the Ravens defense is, and then one thing that gets brought up about them is they have Roquan, they got Kyle Hamilton, but it's like people will bring up how they don't feel like they have that guy, that Nick Bosa, that Fred Warner is what people try to bring up. And so I'm kind of intrigued to see what this defense does and how they stack up against this potent offense. Their ability to get after the quarterback, regardless of who it is and how many people. They don't have that one person that has 15, 16 sacks, but they got a bunch of guys that got 6, 7, 8. And
BK actually has 11. He's been playing out of his mind. He has a sack every game. To channel my inner Kai, though, Kai has been telling me that their secondary is kind of dog water, and that's their weakness is the secondary. And that's where I believe the game will come down to, and where they will be able to be had is in the seams, because they can't guard the seams for nothing in the world. Like the broken touchdown that they were able to let up last week was that big long bomb to Agnew, right?
Right.
So the 49ers have a lot better skilled players than the Jaguars do, and they're able to, like what Kyle Shanahan does so well than most coaches is game plan, and they're going to be able to game plan on how to kill them over the seams and call different things. And you got George Kittle over the seams. You got all these different weapons, Brandon Ayuk over the seams. So that's why I think it's going to be a 2-touchdown game based off of that.
And I could definitely see where you're coming from, man, because I think that the one thing that kind of gives me a little pause and why I'm kind of considered is sometimes the 49ers struggle with mobile quarterbacks.
They do. Yeah. But the one thing too, also Stanley, the right tackle, has been hurt. Yeah. And that's the same side Nick Bosa's on, so you got that young rookie on the right side. That's kind of like child's play right there. So
right.
That's another thing I could see them struggling on is that right side.
Yeah, but I think that they definitely have the athletes, Chase Young, Nick Bosa on opposite sides, Fred Warner in the middle, how he flies around the field. And so I got to pick one. I'm going to go with the Ravens, man. I'm going to stick with the Ravens. And Lamar Jackson, how well he plays against NFC opponents. So I'm gonna stick with Lamar, but I do believe that this is the Super Bowl matchup that we're gonna get. And so for the rest of the time we got left, we got some quick hitters, but we don't necessarily got to be too quick, considering we had like 17 minutes left in the show. But Anthony Edwards. Text messages with an IG model who is supposedly pregnant. He came out and made a statement saying pretty much, I support women's rights. They have the right to do whatever it is that she wants to do. I am not that type of person. Given that he's only 22, 23 years old, should players have to comment on personal matters?
No. First and foremost, they need to stop getting caught up by BBLs, because I seen the girl's butt and it's disgusting. I don't understand how. But it's the thing too with like Zion with Mariah Mills. Like you see this all the time, and it's like I feel like I'm not a big fan of Brittany Renner, but she be putting you on game. Like she says the best way to trap an athlete is don't wear a condom because they don't wear condoms. And they keep doing it, man. So it's one of those things. It's like you got to be a grown man, and you got to have an OG in your ear or something to be like, "Yo, bro, it's not the way." Right. But should they be able to force to make it? No, they shouldn't be able to force to make a statement because it's their business. However, it makes it look bad on their brand, and it makes it look bad on other areas. And then you start to see like cancel culture is so sensitive that you start to see people dropping you from your brands, right? Like, oh boy, what's the dude from Jonathan Major just got Captain America and all his stuff that dropped him, right? Things. So it's like no matter, so you're almost put in a situation where you got to be forced to pick a side of where to stand in order for you to not be canceled or for you to not have sponsors drop you or your shoe deals to be dropped and all these different things because it's so sensitive nowadays. Right? Who knows? You might have Planned Pregnancy coming out and protesting this dude the next game, right? Like
Right.
Parenthood and all these other places. So you're forced, like you feel like you have to say something because of those situations, but at the same time, I don't feel like it's nobody's business but the two people, and then it becomes dirty too as the woman leaking my conversations, and it's like you don't get a chance to know somebody well enough, like you just get blinded by the BBL and the big lips.
Yeah.
But you don't know the person well enough that they're going to put your business out there. And I see this damn near every day with these athletes. We've seen it the entire summer with Mariah Mills. Dropped a whole diss track about this dude.
Right.
Dropped all the messages.
That was the part that had me crying, bro. I was like, she rapping?
She rapping, bro. Like, and it's like you don't know anything about these women, but they have a big butt and fake lips. You don't know the person, and it's like they're trying to damage you, right? And this is where, as an athlete coming up, you got to learn from each other to understand, like, yo, these are the dangers of what could happen. So, do I feel bad for them? No. But should they be able to should they be forced to say something? I don't believe that either. But at the same time, it is their fault, right? Like, learn from Zion, bro. Like, learn from each other because it happens all the time.
Yeah, I definitely think that they shouldn't have to say anything. On top of that, I think there's a lot of different ways that this can be go about. I think there's a real conversation that has to be had of, yes, we can support women's rights to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do with their bodies, but it's also when it comes to the nature of the conversation, it's like women is as much as people are being dumb enough to make the same mistakes. There's people that are coming up just off the fact of, oh yeah, I was able to get him to not wear a condom, have a baby. Now I'm rich, pretty much. And if they can make that conversation of having the child, why can't I have the conversation of not having the child? Or if they don't want to have the child and I want it, it's like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place at the end of the day. And even Gilbert Arenas said on Gil's Arena that he was like, that's 80% of us in the locker room, if not 90. Like, none of us are in this locker room like, oh my God, I can't wait to be a father with this random IG model. Like,
bro, there needs to be a case study, right, of how many athletes have kids that are related, right? Josh Jacobs. So I'm gonna tell you about Josh Jacobs, Geno Smith, and Eli Apple all have the same baby mother. Their kids are brothers.
That's wild.
Anthony Simons and I forgot who was the other person. Anthony Simons is another NBA player. I forgot who it was. Have the same baby mother. He just got her pregnant.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Like there needs to be a case study of how many of these dudes mess with the same females and their kids are related.
Because, like, I think Bow Wow and Wayne have a kid in common, or Bow Wow and Future have a kid in common.
Yeah, Bow Wow and Future.
Or baby mama in common. The Dream and Wayne with Christina Milian. And there's many more. And this is like,
bro, it's crazy, right? Like,
it makes no sense to me.
This chick got 4 kids by 4 athletes, like by 3 different athletes, and she's paid the rest of her life.
Oh God, yeah, it's a chick that
and it's like, why?
Is the daughter of a guy that my mom worked with, and she has a son with Matt Leinart and Blake Griffin.
Blake Griffin just got with that porn star, just like exposed them, like, of having her kid, right? You know, like,
what are we doing here, fellas?
It was wild, bro. Like, you know, like there needs to be a case study of this because it's crazy, and it's like y'all don't learn from each other's shortcomings or
mistakes at all. They're not watching anybody else's mistakes.
They're not watching anything, right? Like it's crazy, bro. Like she obviously has a type, and you obviously can end up like this mother, right? Like,
right.
And Eli Apple was the dumbest one because he was the last one that got her pregnant, and she leaked all these like information about him. And she like put a bounty on him. She was like, my baby daddy won't pay child support, blah, blah, blah. If you get him hurt, I'll send a rack to y'all thing. And then I looked her up and I found out, bro, that's Josh Jacobs' baby mama. Josh Jacobs got 2 by her, and Geno Smith got 1 by her.
That's crazy. That's crazy. DeMarcus Cousins signs with a team in Taiwan. I believe he's in the same league that Dwight Howard was in, which leads us to the question because we I see this question a lot on different podcasts when it comes to vets, how the league doesn't have any vets. I'm not sure how you feel about DeMarcus Cousins as far as his talent currently,
Guy, yeah.
but is this bad for the league?
No, I would say yes and no. The reason why I say no, I think it's good for older players, right? Because we seen Stephon Marbury take this route, right? Like
Yeah,
go to China and he was a legend, he was a god there.
got
And
a
it's like
statue
over
and all that.
here, they say like another man's trash is another man's treasure. Like we don't realize we need these type of players, Marcus Cousins, until we need them. Like the fact to me, Cody Zeller played any significant minutes in the NBA Finals is hilarious to me. Like I don't
Yeah,
understand that at all. And it's like we don't. There's a kid that I love his game. He's like on 7 different teams. He's like 22. Miles Brown, right?
yeah,
Moses Brown, I think his name. Moses Brown, the center.
yeah.
You don't realize you need a big center until you need a big center. Until
Right.
Cody Zeller is playing significant minutes in the playoffs. And a guy like DeMarcus Cousins goes underappreciated for whatever reason. And if they're not going to pay me over here, I can go over across country and be a legend and be a star, and they're going to appreciate who I am, right? Like Jimmer Fredette damn near averages 60 points,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
y'all don't appreciate me over here. I'm a gunner. I do all this other stuff over here. Okay, cool. I'm going to go give the bag somewhere else. And it becomes bad for the league when Cody Zeller plays in the NBA Finals.
right.
That's when it becomes bad for the league, right? So
Facts.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I got a legend across country that is doing his thing over there that we don't appreciate. So yeah, they're gonna find other ways to get it. And I don't feel like with other opportunities, like with Ice Cube and the big three, right? We still see Joe Johnson was nice.
Right,
Right. Then he played in that TBT tournament and damn near was MVP of that. So
right,
there's
right.
like always other opportunities to go ball. And I think we're starting to figure that out. And the NBA are starting to figure that out. And they're realizing this. And I think this is why they're trying to collaborate with different leagues to send their players to, right? So they can always have a pool of talent, right? So at nights where you don't want to load manage, well, I can have a DeMarcus Cousins still come off my bench or whatever, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree 100%. I think that it is bad. I do think it is bad for the league in the sense of we're gonna get to a point where, and I think it got brought up with the whole I forget the track star that said that the NBA should just be
No allows.
no allows. He said that the NBA should just be like country champions versus world champions. Is and a lot of I think the reason why some people feel like we can be called world champions is the best talent is supposed to be here. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where the best talent is not going to be in the NBA, and that's the part for me that I think it sucks when you see Jamal Crawford, how he was pushed out of the league. He in his last game he put up 50. DeMarcus Cousins not being in the league. Dwight Howard, what he was able to do, as much as I still feel like he was prior to all the controversy and all that. If we just talking basketball, being able to contribute on the NBA court, like at least give him an opportunity to see if he could still bang with the bigs. And we saw what he was able to do in the bubble versus Jokic. And now 2-3 years later, he's just completely out the league. And that's the part for me where I feel like it is bad for the league, but the league's going to continue to keep going on. But I do think that the talent level is going to get to a point where, same thing with the NFL and what Tom Brady said, it's going to get watered down. And so Jaden Daniels, we talked about him earlier. He is skipping the bowl game to prep for the draft. Are you in favor of players skipping out of the bowl games to prep for the draft?
Yes, because of what happened to Jalen Smith at Notre Dame, where he like completely snapped his leg.
Yeah.
When you see Jordan Travis, that injury, like you can't plan for injuries, obviously. And the thing is, it's like there's so many bowl games that are not important. There's about to be a bowl game called the Duke Mayo bowl game, and not to shit on Duke's Mayo, like I don't. But to dump mayonnaise on your head coach is disgusting, right? Like not Gatorade, but mayonnaise.
Yeah, I probably would want to fight. You put Mayo.
Yeah, like so it's like playing in the Cheez-Its Bowl and playing in the Toastery Bowl was that yesterday. What is the Toastery Bowl, right?
Right,
So
right.
playing in so many insignificant, not important games. Why would I play and why would I risk injury when I know that I have status in the league, right? Like, I think it matters for guys who are trying to make a name for themselves, but like in the up and coming years, we're probably not going to see this because you're expanding the playoffs to like 8 teams, so there's going to be a lot more players playing. But I don't think people care about the Duke's Mayo Bowl, the Toastery Bowl, the Hennessy Bowl, the Slurpee Bowl, like all these made up bowls. Like, they don't care about this, so no.
Yeah, I think the only one I really cared about outside of the major ones is actually pay attention to who plays in the Las Vegas Bowls. But that's just because I live in Las Vegas.
Right. Yeah.
Outside of that, could care less. So
Yeah.
me, I don't. At one point, I wasn't definitely against it, but now in the greater scheme of things, because all right, you play in this bowl, it's December. The draft is in April. So if you suffer a major injury, it could definitely ruin your draft stock and ability to show what you got. So I feel like it gives you an opportunity to start working on mechanics, get you a quarterback coach. Depending on a position that whatever position that you play, I definitely think that it can get you that jump start.
Yeah, and like it matters for players like a Bo Nix, right? Because like Bo Nix told us, like when I was in the media room, that it's a legacy game for him because it's like his college career was like it had its pitfalls, and like he started off kind of hot and then it like cooled down, and now he's like he wants to be remembered and he wants to win a bowl game for his. So it matters for players like a Bo Nix.
Yeah,
the rest of them like no,
nah, I got bigger plans. It's bigger than this. It's bigger than Nino Brown.
Right.
And so, last topic, South Carolina was running through teams last year. They came up short, fizzled out against Caitlin Clark in Iowa. I forget the young lady's name, but she was the one that Caitlin Clark went like this to. She's been balling and shooting over 40% from three this year, and they've just been trampling teams. Should they be favorites?
Yeah, South Carolina. Because the thing that I've noticed about like women's college basketball towards men's college basketball, like in men's college basketball, there's always that team like St. Peter's or the UMCMB, YMCMB, whatever.
Right.
There's always teams like that come out of nowhere that you're like, okay. No, none of us predicted the final. We can never predict the men's Final Four because I feel like there's always a level and even playing field. Where like the women's division is pretty much standard of who's going to be there, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have a top player in the nation or there's a pretty damn good chance you're going to be there. Like UConn ran stuff for years, Tennessee ran stuff for years.
Yes.
Now we're in South Carolina's era, and it's like individual players are as we seen last year, like good team, great teams, Angel Reese, she became a thing, but now with I don't know what's going on with her and LSU, so that's the thing. South Carolina, they're pretty much locked in to what they're going to be. I love that chick from USC, Juju. I love her, bro.
Yes.
I want to see them go far just because I want to see Juju ball.
Right.
But like outside of that, man, it's one of those things where it has talent. And South Carolina just has all the talent, and it's going to be hard for other girls to match up with that level of talent that they have. So.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing. It's like every year when you look at a women's Final Four, you can pretty much book at least 3 out of the 4 teams,
right?
Depending on whatever bracket that those star players and star teams are in. And so that's the thing for me is why, like, I do think that when it comes down to it, it's really going to be one of 3 teams that are going to be in there. I don't think that Iowa will have enough behind Caitlin Clark to be able to really make that type of noise. So for me, I got LSU, South Carolina. Hopefully they're not on the same side of the bracket so we can get them in the championship game.
Right. I agree.
And so that's the part for me is like I would say that they're one of the favorite, if not one of the favorites, because my LSU ties is still going to keep me rooting for LSU. Yeah. And so thank you all for watching. Like I mentioned before, make sure you like, follow, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff with all our socials going down there on the bottom. We will have an audio version coming out tomorrow morning. Re-aired episode on Thursday. And thank you all for watching. We're out of here. Peace.